request you to please step outside. We're going to start very shortly, but in the interim, I request you to please settle down and take your seats.
आजकल के बच्चों में बहुत कम मिलता है।
Welcome back. Good to have all of you back after lunch, and I request all of you to please settle down, take your seats. I'm sure you've had a good opportunity to fill your tummies and fill your hearts with all the meeting up that you missed out on over the last 2 years in the pandemic. But I request all of you to please take your seats so that we can resume our session. And we're now going to talk about strengthening existing urban healthcare systems for tackling hysterectomies. Now, this session will focus on addressing the gaps in the gynecological care and how counseling and awareness can go a long way in tackling the growing numbers of early hysterectomies in our country. So please put your hands together and welcome on stage our participating panelists for this session. Please put your hands together and welcome Dr. Ajay Kumar Khera, Country Representative in Gender Health India Country Office. Please also welcome Dr. Narendra Gupta, Public Health Expert, Rajasthan Convener, Jan Swasth Abhiyan Rajasthan, Prayas. We have some of our participants who are joining us virtually. Please welcome Dr. K.Madan Gopal, Senior Consultant Health, NITI Aayog. Dr. Kiran Pandey, Chairperson, Medical Education Committee, FOGSI. Dr. Jayshree Sundar, Director, Obstetrics and Gynecology, Madhukar Rainbow Hospital, Saket. And our moderator for this session, Dr. Neena Singh Kumar, Director, Obstetrics and Gynecology and Laparoscopic Surgeon, Fortisla Farm, GK2, New Delhi. A round of applause for our speakers who are joining us on the stage and who are joining us virtually. I'll hand it over to Dr. Neena to conduct this session.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Am I audible?
Ma'am, you can just hold it a bit higher.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, IHW, for this inviting me and my panelists for this Preserve the Uterus Summit. And I would not take much time because we're already lagging behind. I would like to introduce that it's a wonderful topic of preserving the uterus because there are too many hysterectomies which are being done indicated or otherwise. To the best of our knowledge, we would like to take it forward by education and see if this particular incidence of hysterectomies, and we justify that and we can prove that it is a requirement for the set of group of patients who benefit out of it. So I would just take it forward for discussion. Is Dr. K.Madan on with us? Excuse me, Dr. K.Madan?
Yes, very much there. Hello.
Hello, Dr. K.Madan. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, that's great to have you with us for this discussion. So just wanted to ask you, as a NITI Aayog initiative, we in hospitals, I'm attached to Fortis Hospital. So there is a small unit in which we do auditing of our own for checking up what kind of hysterectomies are we doing, whether we are doing abdominal, laparoscopic, vaginal, what are the indications, how the patient has fared, what was the stay in the hospital, what were the complications which happened. So we are maintaining that record and taken that initiative on our own. So we're just wanting to know, what is your opinion on how the government can ensure a better check and audits when it comes to surgical interventions as hysterectomies?
You have just mentioned the example of hysterectomy. Please go back a decade earlier when the RSPY program was launched and the Aarogyashree program was launched. There were newspaper reports saying about hysterectomies being done in women in the childbearing age. That means as early as 18 years of age, 16 years of age, the women have undergone hysterectomies. Being part of that program, I was also part of the team which did the hysterectomies during that time. So one of the glaring thing which these programs have brought it, the empowerment of the beneficiaries. That means the RSPY empowered the beneficiaries as well as the Aarogyashree program during that time it was empowered. As a result, the pent-up demand, because if the gynecological, after the family is complete, if you any local representative or a common person in the rural areas or the other areas, they will say that the family is complete, the child is 5 years, 6 years of age. So if it is indicated for that. That's one way of looking at that point of thing. But after that incident, after we came back and submitted the report, a lot of discussions happened. We created hysterectomy guidelines involving FOGSI. And now FOGSI is having a very standard protocol for carrying out hysterectomies, and all FOGSI members, they records of that. Apart from that, when the insurance programs were launched, a few of the common procedures were. You will remember that in our country, though it is mandatory to provide services, but we don't have an agreed standard treatment protocol as the NICE and other organizations are having. Even the organization, the associations, if they have a standard treatment guideline, then whether it will be having a legal backing, if I am following a standard treatment guideline, if something goes wrong, is it having a legal backing? That kind of thing has not evolved. We do have standard treatment guidelines, and efforts have been made by ICMR, NSHRC, Ministry, as well as during the RSUI. We have come up, even the industry, FICCI has also come up with this guidelines. But these guidelines are only for guiding that what needs to be done and how things will happen. But in case of any eventuality, are they going to support? That's why the uptake of the guidelines have been very, very limited. That's one thing. The second thing is efforts are being made to evolve protocols and other algorithms for treatment. If you look at the programs, the insurance programs which have evolved in the state of Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, they do have protocols. The surgical protocols are there, but they are only limited for administration of the whether that has been followed or not. But whether it will result in a better outcome of the patient or not, that still needs to be explored and found out. I will stop there.
It was very nice and encouraging. Yeah. So it was nice to see that so many organizations are working to standardize the indications for hysterectomies, and I'm sure it will work out to a common formula under the FOGSI, and that's a national body which will be taking it forward, most probably along with the others. So I was just wondering, in urban society in which we are, we do have hospitals, we have tertiary, primary, all hospitals, dispensaries, clinics to address to these women problems. I was just wondering, are there any gaps which are there in gynae care at the rural areas? And if yes, then what measures are we taking for that?
If you look at the system which has evolved, so we do have a health institution, but we have to first understand how the health system is structured. So we are having districts, knows about districts. Below the districts are the blocks, and below the blocks, the system is divided into the sector and the sections. Each block is roughly catering to 100 to 150 villages. Each sector caters to 20 to 30 villages, and each section to 5 to 10 villages. That means essentially depending on the terrain, so a section would be catering 20,000 to 6,000 to 5,000 population, and a sector would be catering to this 20,000 to 30,000 population. The section headquarters, we call them as, previously we used to call them as sub-health centers, which have now been upgraded to health center based on the change of strategy from primary health care to comprehensive primary health care. That's a different, we won't be discussing here. At the sector level, we are having a primary health center. That's the first place where the community comes in contact with a medical professional, either with a Ayush professional or a medical doctor, MBBS doctor. Above that is a block level, a community health center where you have a full obstetric care, emergency obstetric care is supposed to be available. 4 specialists are there. This is the structure. At the district level, we are having a vision to have one medical college for every district. That's a separate thing. But at this level, a similar kind of thing has been replicated in the urban setup also. Because as we are urbanizing, 40% of the population in the coming years would be in the urban setup. In the urban areas also, you are having the urban PSC and urban sub-center or urban health and wellness center, depending whether it has been upgraded or not. At this level, you are having the provision for providing services to the health workers. Health worker female is there, and who is as a bridge health volunteer is there, who acts as a bridge between the community and the provider, who are known as ASHA workers. They are for, the setup is for availing the services. But whole of the focus has been on reproductive and child health care for the last more than 4 decades, wherein the obstetric care has taken the precedence over the gynecological care. We have to see how the gynecological care is also brought into the picture. More focus on the side of the care, but we have to see that how the gynecological care is also brought into the picture. Right now, gynecological care is more or less restricted to the wide discharge and other things at the health and wellness centers level. Beyond that thing, even for of your cancer, the PAPS care and that facility, we have to see how it is extended at that level. But contact with the medical professional happens at the PSC level and the CSC level and below above at the district level. Special camps do happen, but more or less it is more or less focused on the obstetric care. So there's a lot of gap in gynecological care. I agree to that. And we see that how we cater to the need, because awareness regarding the gynecological problems is also very low in the community. They only see that if a lady needs only obstetric care. For gynecological, the main common gynecological problem for which they seek care is the white discharge or the leukoryl discharge. So that's a common thing from the field. But work is in progress. We see that how we make awareness about the gynecological care. For the as well as the institutional mechanisms which are there, how we can strengthen it so that it reaches to the nearest place as possible to the community.
It was nice to hear about the robust infrastructure we have at that level. And I'm sure there is hope at the end of the tunnel, or there's light at the end of the tunnel to finally have these gynecological cases also addressed to and also becoming a focus as the obstetric care is as of now. So hopefully things will be better in the coming time. So I would like to pose questions to Dr. Kiran Pandey, if she's around.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm there.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can very well hear you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So I was just wondering, in routine practice, we all as gynecologists keep ourselves abreast with all the developments which are happening, maybe through a CMA, meeting colleagues, and all the conferences that we attend about the recent advances, and also take it to the masses who come to us. But that may be only a fraction of them who attend our clinics or these dispensaries or these government organizations or hospitals. I was wondering, how do you feel educating the health practitioners that will broaden the spectrum of one-point contact of all patients who are going to their health practitioners, not only to gynecologists? So how do you feel by educating these health practitioners through 3MEs or through public-private partnerships will help in the project which we are looking or focusing on is preserving the uterus?
Thank you. First of all, I am very thankful for the opportunity you have given to me, and at the same time, this wonderful project which is going on, Preserve the Uterus. Personally speaking, if I say, I am very much concerned about the preserving of the uterus, because many a times I have been professor and head of the department in Kanpur Medical College for 18 years. And just a few months back, I have been superannuated. And I've always seen that the women coming from at the age of even 25 years, 30 years, 28 years with the history of hysterectomy and with the post-hysterectomy complaints, because they were not aware. So what I feel the most important thing and the key point should be, and also, as you know, I am Medical Education Committee Chairperson, FOGSI, which is the biggest organization of gynecologists. So there also, it becomes my responsibility and my feelings that if the postgraduates, the young doctors which are coming out, because whatever I remember when we were postgraduates, whatever was taught, it is still ingrained in our brain. That sticks. The upgradation occurs, but those principles are settled there. So if we take up the postgraduates which are just coming up into the practice outside, either in public or in the private, if they learn the concept of this preserving the uterus. And what becomes most important is that they should be told, which we were not told in other ways, that what are the effects and what problems the women faces after the uterus is removed. So if we focus mainly on this aspect, I mean, just a coincidence also that I'm a Indian Medical Menopause Society president at the Kanpur. So I know what a woman suffers after the hysterectomy has been done. The general public has this concept that every problem is because of the uterus. Even I've seen the husbands also coming whenever there is a pain, there is anything, they come, Madam, uterus nikal dijiye, sab theek ho jayega. But actually that is not. So we have to focus on those aspects. What are the effects of the hysterectomy in the later age? The menopause, which was supposed to occur at 48 years, 47 years, if we do it at 28, so 20 years beforehand, she will be suffering with those symptoms. The increased chances of cardiovascular accidents, bone health problem, mental health problem, in fact, all the problems. So if we are able to ingrain those points into the minds of public as well as our doctors, young doctors who are coming out through CMEs, through webinars, we can make a module, we can make a, plan out how to go ahead with this. And through even my medical education committee, I can definitely, I have members from all over India, starting from every corner, 20 medical colleges, which can take up other medical colleges also in joining. And then definitely, I think they can, this concept may be propagated. And if it is ingrained at the basic level, it will go a long way.
Actually, I agree with you. So coming to the postgraduate years, and I'm also thinking that the general practitioners who are the one-stop station for most of the patients, if they are also educated on the preservation of the uterus than removing. So just on a lighter note, I just like to comment, as you just said, that most of the problems are narrated to the uterus. As a gynecologist, I feel after hysterectomy, most of the problems are related to that. If it is a gas or it's a headache or it is a joint pain or anything, it comes back to us, bouncing back, aap jab se hysterectomy hua tab se ye problem hua hai, which may be to some extent correct, sometimes may not be, but even we are also facing the same post-hysterectomy and prior to hysterectomy. Anyhow, so coming to the education of young children or young adolescents, what do you feel how it's going to help by educating the young adolescents also, as you said, catch young? So will the adolescent education of these girls and their adolescents also help, and education of them will help us to long way in this endeavor which we have?
Definitely, because actually young girls, they are not being told again the same way, because mothers are not aware, the families, are parents are not aware, the society is not aware of the complications which do occur after hysterectomy. How will they teach the adolescents? So it is our duty, medical practitioners, health practitioners' duty, that we have to make them aware. Uh, Again, I would say I've been lucky to be the national coordinator of Adolescent Health Committee of FOGSI 5 years back. And then, and since then, I have been going to the many colleges and schools dealing with adolescents. And I've seen that they are not aware of even menstrual problems, even this vaginal discharge problem, or the family, how to plan the family. So they need education. And we can make something like that. I was just thinking when you said, put up the question, some module like this, save the mothers, or save your mothers, or save your, save the femininity, something like that. We can plan different small capsules, and we can teach them what is going to happen if their mother undergoes hysterectomy, what she will be facing. She will not be able to take a proper decisions. She will be moody, behavioral changes, and what the memory and the cognition, all that can also be affected. So if they want something, I mean, they have to take up initiative. They are the younger generation who are coming up and growing up and the future of the nation. So if they take up the initiative, tell their family, educate their family. What I mean is we educate them, they educate the family, they're coming up. So then definitely it can work. So adolescents, that is our foundation step. From there, if we start educating, hitting the at every step, maybe in future we should be hopeful that we will be able to do
I
justice
fully
to.
agree with you that adolescent health, when we are talking and going back and addressing in the schools, we tell them about their menstrual hygiene, we tell them about the usage, we tell them about the precautions they should take to not have unwanted pregnancies, and also about their sexual health. It will go a long way, I'm sure, for their general health. Coming to taking it further with Dr. Ajay, what do you think? What should be the discussion of the sexual health? Still a taboo in India?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, the greetings to all of you from on behalf of Engender Health. And I'm grateful to the Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council for giving me this opportunity to speak. Now, the question being raised is that unnecessary hysterectomies are happening. What is the solution now? Solution obviously lies in terms of, educating, and actually not only educating, counseling is the most critical component, I have seen, being a gynecologist and a public health professional, people are actually, asking for hysterectomies. People are demanding for cesarean sections. I mean, that is the kind of the trend which is happening. And sometime, we may blame even things like, Google University kind of approach, People look at the Google and then they start, coming to the doctors and start asking for it. And doctors do not have that kind of a time, energy, or a capacity to carry out a counseling. So if we really want to, kind of address this issue of preserving uterus, the solution lies in right set of education, a right set of counseling to the two category of people. One is obviously the category is the healthcare providers, because they also need to be capacitated and their counseling skill needs to be strengthened. But beside that, as Madam is saying about adolescent, because adolescent is, one age group, where the health, social well-being, and even the sexual well-being is formed, It's a kind of a stage where there is a transition is happening, from adolescent to adult. So I think that is the right time if we can, educate them about sexual and reproductive health. There has been a lot of effort by the government of India by introducing something called as the comprehensive sexuality education in schools, comprehensive sexuality education for adolescents. But, there are a number of gaps. Maybe the people who are providing, they are not feel comfortable. There is a lot of, stigma attached to it. People do not talk about sex freely. People do not talk about sexually transmitted disease. And people do not talk about even things like menstrual hygiene. These are all social taboos. And I think if these taboos needs to be addressed, the right age is the adolescent. And I think comprehensive sexuality education, which should encompass not only about menstrual hygiene, it should also talk about the reproductive system as well. What is the need of this reproductive system? It is not only for producing children, it has so many hormonal advantages as well. I think unless we educate the community, we won't be able to address this issue. And last but not the least, because most of our health programs, as Dr. Gopal has also mentioned, if you look at the all national programs, they are mother-centric. Mother means unless you are pregnant, you are not part of the system. Once you become pregnant, then the government system keeps talking about number of antenatal cares, iron and folic acid tablet given or not, injection tetanus toxoid given or not, delivery took place in a hospital or not. There are complete package of kind of interventions. But there is something called as the women of the reproductive age group. There is a real need to, come up with some kind of a system to address the need of the women of the reproductive age group, and with a special focus on issues of, hysterectomies or preserving uterus. So these are my thoughts, and I think this is the way we might have to take it forward. Thank you very much.
We appreciate a lot. You have given good inputs on this particular subject. I would request Dr. Narendra Gupta, you being in the public health as an expert, as to what are the economical reasons or economic reasons for women seeking hysterectomies, especially in rural areas. Do you feel that the setup is inadequate, or the follow-ups are not there, or unawareness is the cause, or there is a fear factor of malignancy or cancer? What is the reason?
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, organizers, for having organized this wonderful event, and also very good to see lots of medical students here, which is very, very good. So let's take it little further backward. As there's a way we look at the problems from the medico-clinical point of view. But then there could be a public health view or socio-epidemiological view of dealing and understanding and developing a framework of operation or action based on that. So the first and foremost question which should occur to us is that why women are getting subjected to these hysterectomies, which are perhaps not indicated in most of the cases, or maybe indicated in quite a few cases. The reason for this is into the society, in the sociological framework in which, part of which Dr. Kheda also mentioned about the kind of hesitation women have. So these are the kind of issues which exist. And so far as hysterectomies are concerned, in India, hysterectomies are done much less than in developed countries. In developed countries, hysterectomies are done much more than in India. But there is a difference. And that difference is very critical. And the difference is this, that the mean age at which hysterectomies are done in Western world, including Brazil, wherever from data is available, they are done post-menopause. Means the mean age is around 55, 56, and so on and so forth. And here in India, the mean age is 33 years. So what is happening is that there is an early menopause which is happening to women, which has very, very disastrous effect on them. Now the issue is that why is this happening and why women are getting subjected to these hysterectomies also is because they have the problem. Because of that problem, they go to the clinicians or to anybody else, surgeons, gynecologists, everywhere, or physicians for that matter, and try to seek treatment for it. So the first and foremost for us is to find out how we deal with this, the kind of menstrual or other problems, gynecological morbidities which they confront with. And take a note of all of those things and how on a community-based basis, on the basis of the community, we try to resolve as much as possible. And one of the way it could be that in urban areas, now there's an urban health mission under which they have constituted Mahila Arogya Samitis in every UPHC slum wards. But no such Mahila Arogya Samitis have been created in rural areas. So one and foremost thing would be to create forums of women of the reproductive age group, is starting from adolescence till the age she attains menopause, where they could come together to talk about the kind of problems they are confronting with. And that is the place where our extension workers, or even for that matter specialists, once in a while go and speak to them, talk with them, explain to them. And that is the place where women are counseled, women are educated, and a community of strengthened, empowered women and other supporting structures are built. And based on, and there, that area should become, that forum should become the place where screenings begin to happen, treatments suggested, because most of the women are suffering from similar kind of problems. It's not that every woman has a different problem. They all have more or less similar abnormal uterine bleeding is the most common cause for it. And if we can deal with that, how to deal with abnormal uterine bleeding, begin some programs are started, and Mahila Arogya Samitis are created. Then at the level of sub-center, now they are called as health and wellness centers, and PSC health and wellness center everywhere. And then there should be RTI, STI clinics in every PHC, so that women who have those kind of reproductive tract infections, sexually transmitted infections, they could go there and seek counseling, and also if treatment is needed, they also get the treatment. So these are the kind of things we have to find out, some community-based approach, because it is an epidemic of gynecological morbidities. It is not something happening here and there to some. It's happening to almost 60% women. In fact, way back in 1989, when a study was done, first time in India, to assess the gynecological morbidities, it was noted that around 89% women reported that they have gynecological morbidities, and almost 40% women said we accept it as a fact of life that women are cursed to have a problems like these. That was the kind of a situation which was there. And I just want to share this, that in way back in 2013, we organized a conference on why there is a rising number of hysterectomies in India. Based on that conference, then we wrote to the government of India, the health secretary of that time, Mr. Keshav Desiraju, that we should try to get some kind of an estimate of hysterectomies happening in India. And it was then added into NFHS 4, National Family Health Survey 4, which did the assessment. And based on that, we now have the figures of different states where how many hysterectomies have happened, though we don't have, and where in private or in public. So of course, there were far more in private institutions than in public institutions. But still, and then FOGSI and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they have come out with protocols as well. In fact, a task force was constituted, and based on that task force, the protocols were designed and devised, but they were not notified. I don't know why, because the FOGSI already had the protocols. So those protocols, if are followed, I'm sure we can deal with the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Narendra. But I also would like to know, you said 1:1 interaction. These are all reaching out to the public as 1:1. What do you feel will be the wider approach if we do involve the social media? As you can see, over a period of time, this 1:1 is one part of the conversation, but then the social media is playing a lot of role in education and reaching out to the masses. What do you feel about that as of today?
Absolutely. Social media has a tremendous penetration among even rural people, for that matter, including women for that matter. So we should make full use of social media, but it should not be on an individual to individual basis. I would still suggest that we should create some kind of forums within villages. There are already forums. Mothers Forum is there at Anganwadis, if you know of, which provides supplementary nutrition to children of 6 months to 5 years and in every village. But it is for mothers. It is not for women. And that way we should make a difference between mother and women, because women are irrespective of being mothers. And that should be recognized, and that should be, clearly understood by everybody. So since 1952, we have a mother's child health program, but we didn't have women and health program, women's health program. It all began only after 1994 when the Cairo ICPD conference happened, and women reproductive health rights were talked about, and based on that, then in India also a RCH program, reproductive and child health program, started way back that time. So that is the way it has all evolved, but it has not reached out finally. And I still stress that we have to have a community-based, community health approach. Unless we do not, because there is an epidemic of it. It is gynecological morbidities are not happening in very small number. They are very, very huge. And women are suffering, and I'm sure you also know that I should also share this, that all kind of pressures are built on women. In fact, even to get an employment, they had to have a hysterectomy. I'm sure you must have heard of in Bid district of Maharashtra, where sugarcane workers are there. 31,000 women had to undergo hysterectomy because the employer said, unless you do not have these uteruses removed, we'll not employ, because then every month or even more than a month, you might be taking holidays every month. That is the way.
This is quite a news, though. We were not aware of it.
Oh no, it's a big news.
Yeah, it is.
You just Google it and you find it.
Okay.
I have it. I have a slide, but since we are not showing slides, so I am not showing the slide. And even just 2 years back, ABPMJ, Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, also red flag that most of the claims which they are receiving are related to hysterectomy. That is one. And this Bid Maharashtra, where 31,000 women had to get their uteruses removed, essentially because otherwise they'll not be employed and they'll be starving because they'll not be earning anything. So that is the kind of a situation we are placed.
That was quite an eye-opener. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for it. I would like to get back to my gynae colleague, Dr. Jayshree Sundar. Is she on? Dr. Jayshree?
Hello, very much on listening to all of you.
We were expecting you here, but you got busy in your professional routine in the hospital. So I was just wanting to know, Jayshree, from you. See, coming to a diseased woman who's having heavy periods, big fibroids, impending cancer, removal of the uterus comes as a relief to her. That there is cessation of heavy periods, and anemia is gone. There is no further childbearing. There is no unwanted pregnancies. So she's a happier woman. But what do you feel is the downside of the same when the women are undergoing hysterectomy as far as their physical and mental well-being is concerned? Because you and I both are in the same profession, having the hysterectomies and women coming us to us. I would like to have your experience on these post-hysterectomy patients about their physical and mental well-being. How do they behave?
So thanks, Nina, and sorry I couldn't be there. I mean, there was a very difficult cesarean. So the challenge here is everything starts from, I really like the concept that we should start it from adolescence, you know, the teaching about what a woman's health needs to do to have a good health. Maybe we didn't have so many fibroids and endometriosis before, right? But with every passing day, we are seeing more so in the urban population. Villages have a different problem. They do hysterectomies at the drop of a hat because I think all cure is hysterectomy. But even in the urban area where we can have a good follow-up, doing so many hysterectomies is not the right thing, and we are trying to curtail it a lot. Yes, it has a lot of impact. So personally, when I counsel patients, I tell them the uterus, once it is removed, especially if we remove it with the ovaries, that means you are aging the woman by 10 to 15 years, right? So obviously it is not, the ovaries and uterus are not important only for her the menstrual health. It's also needed for sexual health, skin health, or cardiovascular health, or bone health, right? So this has to be absolutely counseled, and hysterectomy should not become the easiest option out, and we should offer them other options. The other thing I've seen is the emotional lability that occurs in women is huge, and the quoted data of depression is around 12% post hysterectomy. We see the menopausal symptoms in women more often nowadays, and there's a lack of libido because there is a lot of dryness, libido. And though we may say that we are keeping the ovaries back and that will help you, but I have seen that when you remove the uterus, the ovaries stop functioning earlier than later. So I think this has to be told to the patient when we are doing a hysterectomy for them. And unless it's absolutely indicated, like there's a mass effect or a precancerous lesion, all hysterectomies can be avoided if we do the right kind of counseling to them.
That is
In
great.
fact, the bladder symptoms also increase a lot. I mean, the bladder symptoms, the urge incontinences, the frequency of urination. I mean, their life. So they have to be told that these could happen to you. We cannot say that hysterectomy is the answer to you, because when it solves some problems, it can bring in other problems. So if they are not counseled and they have a right to choose, then what is the treatment modality they want, right?
Yeah. And having yes, I fully agree with you. And also it relates to loss of femininity for many women. And it also leads to a lot of anxiety, leads to depression, psychological issues, going to psychiatrists, coming on treatments. So all these issues are well addressed to if we are doing proper counseling, filtering out patients who require hysterectomies, giving conservative treatment for those where we can do away with IUCDs or do away with pills and do away with minor procedures. So that goes a long way in their women health. Thank you so much for your inputs, Jayshree. And coming to the counseling, as you have already covered up, that counseling of the patients by itself will giving them the downside and giving them the other alternatives for preservation of the uterus, they will be accepting it better. Coming to Dr. Ajay Khera, what do you feel is the informed choice on the reproductive health? Is it a basic human right?
Absolutely, I think what you said regarding the reproductive choice is the human right, and there's no doubt on this point. But regarding reproductive health, there is a lot of counseling is required. That's why we use the word informed choice. That means you will have to inform the person concerned that these are the 5 choices, and only then the person has the liberty to take a call, whether it is in terms of selection of a contraceptive method or selection of the treatment approach. Because for a particular disease, the treatment approach could be medical in nature, treatment could be surgical in nature. That's why people are now asking for surgery. But at that point of time, it is the duty and the responsibility of the healthcare provider to
Recording
provide
stopped.
right set of counseling. That just going for a hysterectomy is not the solution, because surgery has its own implications, has its own complication. Surgery is not 100% safe. And when there are medical and the conservative method of treatment, why can't you? Or not giving enough time to make the woman understand, and we just ask them, you have to do this and that's all, a prescriptive approach. And I think it is the right time that we might have to instill the art of counseling with every healthcare provider. That's number one, as a solution, because reproductive health is a matter of right and informed decision making. And then the second, from a system point of view, we are conducting one of the project from the United States government, that is called as the Momentum Project on Safe Surgery in Family Planning and Obstetrics, where we are finding large number of cesarean sections are happening. And we did a kind of a rapid review and did a literature search, and we were surprised to know that there is a limited data sets available even in terms of post morbidity following cesarean. And I think similarly limited data sets about the complications following the hysterectomies. The common public healthcare providers are not fully aware. They think surgery is the answer, because surgical interventions are quick, easy, and they can be done. So I think the counseling has to be given a lot of importance. And then the second important thing, from a health system point of view, because Dr. Gopal was explaining you the overall urban health system or the health system in the country, there are large number of kind of ASHA workers or A&M workers or even doctors at the kind of a remotest part of the country who are not expert, but they also need to be explained that what are the kind of the drawbacks of going for hysterectomies, somehow they are not engaged, they are not involved. And as somebody, Dr. Gopal only told, that the whole health system is geared to fulfill the needs of a woman who becomes pregnant. But there, the program doesn't talk about the so-called the women's health, or in particular, the gynecological needs. And particularly for a situation where there is an epidemic of hysterectomy happening, I think we need to, educate our healthcare providers right from the remotest part to the highest level. I know that the surgeries are only done by experts, not done by the primary healthcare physicians. But primary healthcare physicians, if they also understand, they can be a better counselor. And women living in that particular village has a more confidence in the woman, who is working in that particular area. So I think maybe as a FOGSI or as an organization, you can also, come up with some kind of a simple messaging, training package or a training module to, kind of a capacitate the primary healthcare workers, right from ASHA workers to the doctors in the remotest part of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this elaborate explanation. And I would like to sum up this session as we are almost through with our session and the next is about to start. So I feel that the mainstay would be the adolescent education, where we are going to educate these adolescents in their school going age, where these are yet building up professionals. So somebody is going to become a scientist, the other will become a doctor, the third will become a computer engineer. And once they are themselves educated, they are kind of messengers in their own organizations to give this message of women health. That is the first and the foremost, I think, as adolescent health, we should catch them young. The second fragment would be when these adolescents are getting married and they're going into the marriages, they should be educated about their, not only the menstrual hygiene, of course, but also unwanted pregnancies, what is about spacing, their contraception, that goes a long way. Having eye pills, terminating pregnancies, having hormonal imbalances, again and again triggers something which is like fibroids or endometrial polyps or ovarian tumors and things like that, because these are high voltage hormones being taken unwantedly. So that also goes a long way in looking into these reproductive health group patients, and also educating the general practitioners who are one-stop station for nth number of masses, just like family doctors. They are the ones, they are the pivot, they follow them blindly. Whatever we may say as gynecologists, they come to my clinic much later as compared to their general doctor whom they have imposed faith in. That person says hysterectomy means hysterectomy, the person says no hysterectomy means no hysterectomy. And once a hysterectomy is suggested, that they fall into our basket. So those general practitioners are the main backbone also for our masses, where there is one contact station. After these women have come back to the gynecologist, it's our duty to understand and filter who are the ones who are going to get management which is conservative, or they are the ones with big fibroids, anemias, dysfunctional uterine bleeding, where no conservative treatment is going to help, and they finally will end up with hysterectomies. Now, once we decide about hysterectomies as a health professional, again, it is my duty to inform my colleagues or my patients about what is they're going to expect at the age where they're going to do a hysterectomy, as to when the menopause is going to come, what are the symptoms which are about to come, is she going to be mentally prepared and accepting what is going to happen post-hysterectomy. That will become much easier for her to decide whether she wants surgery or not. First I decide and then she decides. So having taken this informed consent, I think it will go a long way in preserving the uterus because of so many checks and filters which will be put at various levels. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for conducting this discussion, and thank you to all the panelists for joining in and sharing their thoughts with us, because counseling is very, very important, and I think the patients trust their doctors the most, and that is where, when we build the capacity for the doctors to be able to speak to their patients, it will become much easier for women to make informed choices. We'll now move on to our last session of the evening. And this is the discussion on health awareness and media, a tool to bridge the knowledge incidence gap. One of the main reasons for the increase in the incidence of hysterectomies is that many a times women become hapless victims of overzealous practitioners and middlemen who ill-advise women to go for drastic measures for routine problems like pelvic pressure during menstruation and other simple conditions. Greater awareness about the ill effects of early hysterectomies can help self-aware women make more informed choices. And media plays a crucial role in getting the right message across. So we're going to talk about health awareness and media. And for this discussion, please welcome our experts for the session. Please welcome Dr. Karan Thakur, Vice President, Operations and Public Affairs, Indraprasth Apollo Hospitals, New Delhi. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage Dr. Karan Thakur. Joining him on stage are the other panelists. Please welcome Anurag Mishra, Executive Editor, Jagran New Media, Dr. Mahima Bakshi, Maternal Child Wellness Coach, Influencer, author and founder owner, Birthing Naturally. Please welcome Jeena Sharma, Head External Communications and Digital Media, PHFI. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage Dr. Archana Singh, Immediate Past Vice President, FOGSI, and Founder Vice President, West UP Chapter, ISOPART, and the moderator for this event, Dr. Priyankur Roy, Chairperson, Public Awareness Committee, FOGSI. Round of applause for all our speakers on stage. And I would like to hand it over to our moderator, Dr. Priyankur Roy, the Chairperson of Public Awareness Committee, FOGSI, to take this discussion forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's indeed a matter of pleasure for all of us to be here with the for a very important topic, of course, that is preserving the uterus. And we, of course, are with FOGSI being the important stakeholder for women's healthcare across the country. We are also with Bayer and IHW today, and we are here to discuss about preserving the uterus and also, of course, the role of media in how it can help in preserving the uterus. So the topic today, as has already been introduced, health awareness and media are tool to bridge the knowledge incidence gap. We all know the importance of media in today's, I would not say only in medical field, in every field rather. And we also know the power of media, the propagation of different aspects of various diseases also in the medical field, if we talk about, which can be done through media, and which definitely does help in spreading the awareness or spreading the knowledge among our general public or women per se. So to start off with the discussion, I would first like to come to Mr. Anurag Mishra, who's the Executive Editor of Jagran News Media. And I would also like to thank all our panelists for being present here today physically for this session. And it's so lovely to meet all of you in this session. So Mr. Anurag, of course, the first question that I would come to you with is, how can media play a proactive role in creating relevant awareness on the issue, both from a medical as well as a policy perspective? See, medical perspective, we do understand that media along with the doctors play a role, but how do you feel that media will help, especially in policy making, and how will it help in propagating it, being a bridge between the doctors and the government as well in the policy building?
ये बड़ा इशू था। अगर इसकी हम बात करें तो 2012 से अगर हम देखें तो एक बड़ी समस्या लोगों के सामने आई। 2012 में बिहार का एक मामला सामने आया कि बिहार में लगातार गर्भाशय निकाले जा रहे हैं। एक डीएम को ये जानकारी हुई समस्तीपुर इलाके में कि वहाँ पर गर्भाशय का मामला है। जब डीएम ने जांच करना शुरू किया तो वहाँ ये देखा कि 20 से 30 साल की लड़कियों की जितने भी गर्भाशय निकाले गए, करीबन 500 के करीब संख्या थी। इसमें उन्होंने करीबन 1 लाख लोगों की जाँच करी। इसमें देखा जिनकी नीड नहीं थी, उनकी कुछ और प्रॉब्लम्स थी। ये प्रॉब्लम बिहार से समाप्त नहीं हुई, ये बिहार के बाद महाराष्ट्र पहुंची। महाराष्ट्र का बीड़ का एक इलाका था जहां पर ये समस्या का पूरा बढ़ना शुरू हुआ। वहां पर गन्ना के खेतों में किसान में जो महिलाएं काम करती थी, उनके गर्भाशय निकाले जा रहे थे। बात ये महाराष्ट्र राजस्थान पहुंची, छत्तीसगढ़ पहुंची। धीमे धीमे ये समस्या बढ़ती गई। लोगों को ये मालूम पड़ गया कि ये समस्या खाली इसलिए नहीं है कि समस्या हो रही है। कई बार ऐसा हो रहा था कि आपकी जरूरत नहीं थी लेकिन फिर भी गर्भाशय निकाले जा रहे थे। अगर हम पूरी दुनिया का पर्सपेक्टिव देखें तो अमेरिका में कहते हैं कि वहां पे अगर 100 में से 6 महिलाओं का निकाला जाता है जब नीड है, और भारत में यही आंकड़ा 20 से 25 के करीब पहुंच जाता है। अभी नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे की रिपोर्ट आई तो कह रहे हैं आंध्र प्रदेश में से 100 में से 23 महिलाओं का या 25 महिलाओं का निकाल देते हैं गर्भाशय। जिसमें से 12 या 15 की नीड ही नहीं होती। तो पहली बार 2018-19 से ये मामला तेजी से समझना शुरू हुआ, कोर्टों तक पहुंचा। इसमें मीडिया का एक बहुत बड़ा रोल था, और जो ये एनजीओ थे उनका रोल था, कुछ संगठनों ने, जैसे ISW है, कुछ संगठनों के कैंपेन थे, उनका एक बहुत बड़ा रोल था कि इस चीजों तक, लोगों तक पहुंचे। तो इसमें मीडिया का बेसिकली रोल यह था कि एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या सामने आई थी, इसका समाधान क्या होगा ये लोगों को मालूम नहीं था, क्योंकि इसका समाधान एक मेडिकल जो प्रैक्टिशनर्स हैं उनको ही मालूम था कि कब निकाला जाएगा या कब नहीं निकाला जाएगा, इसकी जिम्मेदारी उनको तय करनी थी। वहां पर आकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट में ये मामला पहुंचा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कमेटी फॉर्म करी। मैं फॉर्चुनेट उस मामले की रिपोर्टिंग करने 2012 में बिहार गया। तो बिहार में मैंने जब वहाँ के स्वास्थ्य मंत्री से पूछा तो उन्होंने कहा ये मामले डॉक्टर्स तय करते हैं, सरकारें तय नहीं करती। हम लोग उसके बाद बिहार में जो वहाँ के मेडिकल अधिकारी थे उनके पास पहुंचे। फिर हम सदर के इलाके में ललिता सिंह वहाँ की CMO थी, जब मैंने उनसे बातचीत करी तो उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे यहाँ कुछ प्राथमिक चिकित्सा केंद्रों में कुछ ऐसी महिलाओं के यूट्रस निकाले गए हैं जिनको सिर्फ पेट दर्द की शिकायत थी, और उन महिलाओं की उम्र वो भी बालिग भी नहीं हुई, उनमें से कुछ महिलाएं ऐसी थी। फिर इसके बाद आंध्र प्रदेश में ये मामला देखने में आया कि सरकार की प्रधानमंत्री बीमा योजना आई और आरोग्यश्री योजना आई, उसके चक्कर में महिलाओं के निकालने यूट्रस शुरू कर दिए। तो इसके पीछे कहीं ना कहीं एक लालच था, एक बहुत बड़ी बात थी कि हम उसके बदले बीमा की राशि कमा लें। लेकिन धीमे धीमे ये प्रैक्टिस बनती गई, क्योंकि महिलाओं को कभी कैंसर का डर दिखा दिया जाता था, कभी उनको किसी चीज का डर दिखा दिया जाता था। आंध्र प्रदेश में सरकार ने स्टडी करना शुरू किया आंध्र प्रदेश में, तो ये सामने आया सरकार के सामने कि कई महिलाएं ऐसी थी जिनका जो इस चक्कर में कर्जे में फंस गई, क्योंकि एक तरफ जो प्राइवेट अस्पताल था या अस्पतालों से पैसा कमा लिया उनसे, लेकिन जो महिला थी वो बहुत ही गरीब मजदूर थी और वो कर्जे फंस गई। भीड़ में जब सरकार ने इसको शुरू किया तो उन्होंने ये चेक किया कि महिलाओं को ये कहा गया कि अगर आप यूट्रस निकलवा लेंगे तो आप 30 दिन महीने में काम कर पाएंगे। तो इसमें मीडिया का रोल।
This was the very interesting point which he mentioned over here. He talked about AP, but he talked about Beed as well in Maharashtra, which I don't know if you know it geographically. It's a very small place where there's a lot of sugarcane workers and also a lot of beedi workers. You know, the reason, very funny reason of why hysterectomy was done for this woman was the fact that they were told, in case if you get a hysterectomy done, you will not have to take leave during your menses. You can come for your work 30 days a month. And that can be such a silly and funny reason for doing hysterectomies, which I totally do agree with Mr. Anurag when he says about Bihar, about AP, as well as about Maharashtra, the same things that have gone on. And of course, he has highlighted very rightly about how media helped in those cases. So, Mr. Anurag, you can go on, please. Yeah. So, So after, what do you feel now after this Maharashtra and AP incidents, when media played an important role in trying to check these hysterectomies? How do you feel that in further, how will it help in checking this number of hysterectomies in the country?
इसके बाद सुप्रीम कोर्ट में और हाई कोर्ट से मामले जाने शुरू हुए। छत्तीसगढ़ का मामला आया, सरकार ने कमेटीज बिठाई, उसके बाद कुछ रूल्स आने शुरू हो गए, थोड़ा सा गाइडलाइंस स्ट्रिक्ट करी गई कि आपको ऐसा नहीं करना होगा। ICMR की कमेटी बनाई गई जिसने कहा कि आप ऐसे जांच नहीं कर देंगे। हालांकि उसकी पूरी अभी कमेटी की रिपोर्ट्स नहीं आई, पर उस कमेटी के में ये कहा जा रहा था कि जैसे कि हम किडनी ट्रांसप्लांट या लीवर ट्रांसप्लांट करते हैं, एक प्रोसेस होती है, वैसे ही यूट्रस के लिए भी एक प्रोसेस बनाई जाएगी। उस प्रोसेस में ये होगा कि एक अप्रूवल होगा और जो मरीज है उसको ये बताया जाएगा कि आपका निकाला क्यों जा रहा है, उससे हम कंसेंट लेंगे, उससे बात करेंगे, उसकी प्रॉब्लम बताएंगे। और जो छोटे इलाके हैं वहां पर जो डॉक्टर्स होंगे, एक सेकेंड ओपिनियन डॉक्टर का लिया जाएगा कि जिस डॉक्टर ने रिपोर्ट दी है, एक दूसरा डॉक्टर उसका ओपिनियन देगा कि आपके ओपिनियन में क्या बात लिखी है और ये क्या जस्टिफाई करता है, इसके निकालने की क्या जरूरत है, या ICMR ने बात करी थी। सरकार ने भी बाद में गाइडलाइंस बनाने के लिए इसकी बात करी। प्रधानमंत्री आरोग्य योजना के तहत हुआ कि हम जब फंडिंग देंगे किसी को भी तो उसको हम चेक करेंगे कि फंडिंग की वजह क्या है। कुछ NGOs ने ये भी कहा कि हम ये जांचने की कोशिश करते हैं कि जहां पर ज्यादा ऑपरेशंस हो रहे हैं वहां का हम ऑडिट करना शुरू करेंगे। उससे ये जानकारी होगी कि यहाँ पर अधिक ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, क्या उसका कुछ, उससे दो फायदे होंगे। अगर कुछ हो रहा है तो उसका हम प्रिवेंशन कर सकते हैं, अगर जबरदस्ती किया जा रहा है तो उसको हम पकड़ सकते हैं। तो ये जो कानून थे इसके बाद ही थोड़ा सा लोगों की जानकारी में आने शुरू हुए और लोग इस पर थोड़ा सा अवेयर हुए। हालांकि रूरल इलाकों में अभी भी दिक्कत है, क्योंकि अभी जो NHS की रिसेंट रिपोर्ट आई उसमें मामले गिरे जरूर हैं, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं कि मामले खत्म हो गए। रूरल इंडिया में अभी भी अवेयरनेस नहीं आई है, क्योंकि वो कमाई का साधन बन, लोगों की कमाई की रुकती, जो आपने भीड़ का एग्जाम्पल दिया, या बेसिकली लोग बहुत डरे हुए हैं, उनके पास ऑप्शन नहीं है कि मैं दूसरे डॉक्टर से ओपिनियन लूं। क्योंकि एक अभी मैं स्टडी रिपोर्ट कुछ दिनों पहले पढ़ा था, एम्स के डॉक्टर एमा गोल्डिस ने लिखी थी वो रिपोर्ट। उन्होंने ये कहा कि जैसे हम जब पूछते हैं पेशेंट से कि आपने ये ऑपरेशन क्यों करवाया, तो बोलते हैं वो डॉक्टर ने बोला हमने सुन लिया, तो और हमारे मर्द ने बोल दिया तो हमने सुन लिया। तो वो उससे आगे समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं कि हमें किससे पूछना है, किससे जानकारी लेनी है, किसके पास जाना है। तो ये एक बड़ी परेशानी है रूरल इलाकों में। शहरों के जो पास के इलाके हैं, कस्बाई इलाकों में, टाउन में, वहां अवेयरनेस आना शुरू हुई है।
Correct. So thank you, Mr. Anurag, for your points. I would say Bayer has been associated with FOGSI for a very long time now, from 2018-19 onwards, in this Preserve the Uterus mission. And this year, again, we have continued with Save the Uterus mission that is going on from 2021. And in this mission, the very important things, there are a few things which Mr. Anurag has mentioned regarding the role of media, and also have mentioned that awareness has started to come, but it's very important for us gynecologists also, because this mission, Preserve the Uterus or Save the Uterus, I have been traveling across the country. We have done 25 to 26 programs in various cities across the country, and we talk about preserving the uterus to the gynecologists with one sole reason. The reason being that gynecologists will not do unnecessary hysterectomies is what we are coming to, we are understanding. But how do we prevent surgeons from doing unnecessary hysterectomies? Because that is one place where we are totally failing when it comes to preserve the uterus. So Dr. Mahima, who is a maternal child wellness coach, is a gynecologist and is a social influencer as well. Ma'am, I would like to ask you, what do you feel is the role of social media platforms in awareness creation for preserve the uterus? As well as how do you feel we can curb this role of surgeons in doing unnecessary hysterectomies?
Yeah, hi. So just to correct you, I'm not a gynecologist.
So sorry for
no
this.
problem.
Okay.
So I think social media plays a big role in influencing people in both positive and negative way. And it's very important for people to realize, especially when we look at health ambassadors out in the community, who are actively involved in promoting health awareness issues. I think it's very important for people to utilize their platforms in a good manner, in a good way, and talk about their own experiences. So I think when somebody starts talking about their own experience, it helps people connect better, makes people understand about what people are doing, and can really help in, sensitizing people out in the community. And most importantly, of course, self-awareness when it comes to women's health is very important, but even more important is sensitizing the men in the community. So I think when we can do that, it will really help us in, bringing a change in the society. And such topics, social media is a great platform to take care of such things. I personally promote awareness on natural birthing, which is again, an important point. So I think it is important that people utilize their social media for something which is good for the community. And it's a very strong tool. Unfortunately, I still see a lot of people posting some random things on social media without realizing.
Become a self-advertisement
Yes.
tool now, which people post surgery photos, etc., which may not be required for the betterment of the community.
In fact, something patient privacy should also be maintained. I've seen a lot of doctors, posting pictures from the OT. So I think somewhere it is important that doctors realize that what we are promoting, can really impact the people in a good and a bad way both. So let's just try to preserve things in a way wherein whatever we are posting on our social media, we should think twice before deciding what to post, what not to post.
And how do you feel social media can help in curbing maybe surgeons from doing hysterectomies? Do you feel social media has a role in it?
It's very difficult to control people unless we have policies in place. So I think it is important that hospitals also per se should, make their strict policies in the hospital when it comes to gynecological surgeries or surgeries related to women. I think there should be proper, protocols in the hospital, whether it's the surgeon who's going to do it or it's the gynecologist who's going to do it. I still see a lot of hospitals department of Obs and Gynae, or even the surgeons are, allowed to do these surgeries. And like in the earlier panel, it was being discussed that having a committee will always be a good option, deciding before doing any kind of unwanted hysterectomy. So I think these kind of initiatives can really help, though I still feel India has a large population and controlling things are not that easy, but definitely step by step, we can really help in improving things in a better way.
Absolutely, Dr. Mahima. Thank you so much for your inputs. So since we were talking so much about hospitals, we have with us Dr. Karan Thakur, who is the Vice President, Operations and Public Affairs at the Apollo Hospital. Dr. Karan, I would like to ask you, I'm sure that corporate hospital does not have this problem of which discipline is going to do what surgeries. It's mainly the smaller single doctor-run clinics, etc., which has these problems. So for Dr. Karan, I would like to ask you, how do you feel the infrastructural changes ensure better screening and diagnostic facilities for gynecological diseases? Because the thing is, it's very important for us to understand that we need to catch them early. Because once we catch them early, the chance of not doing a hysterectomy is much more. Because if the disease advances, then we might end up doing a surgery which could have been prevented earlier. So what do you feel the role of these changes could be?
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Roy. It's an important question. And I'd just like to build on what other people have already said. One is, previously surgery seemed like the best option. It seemed like the easy option. As you were saying, example from BEAD and from other socioeconomic backgrounds, it felt more prudent to do this, and it was offered as a solution. So if all you have is a cricket bat, then everything looks like a cricket ball, right? So you would just go ahead and do a surgery. But today we have different technologies available to us, infrastructure which is far more advanced than what we had previously, even in smaller towns and villages. And I think that's where technology meets infrastructure. Things like telemedicine, things like early screening, things like mobile vans which can go out into the community to do preventive screenings. These are tools now that are available with us across the board. And I think as more and more hospitals look at their proximate areas to service not just patients that come in to seek care, these type of screenings will help. Second, a lot of CSR funds are now flowing into things like screening, maternal health, women's health, reproductive health, and that propels hospitals to deploy their best manpower for such services. And I think the power of telemedicine was best displayed during COVID. A lot of acceptance was there from patients, a lot of acceptance was there from doctors to also get on the telemedicine bandwagon. And now that the technology works, I think it is incumbent on hospitals to use that to get patients screened so that they don't have to travel unnecessarily. I think the hints are there to end the comments quickly. But so as I was saying, I think now there is also a movement towards telemedicine to be used as a force multiplier because we can't have the best gynecologists available across every village, taluk or district in this country. But we can have telemedicine reach every nook and corner and pin code of India. So we must use that. This will also help people not going to quacks, not going to unqualified doctors, to seek advice and treatments that frankly should never have been done.
Perfect, Dr. Karan. So the two important words from what he said, I would reiterate as service and reaching out. Service, of course, there are a lot of CSR funds, as he said, as coming out to the corporate hospitals as well as otherwise, which can be helped for, doing camps, etc., reaching out to the public in the village setups as well, which really helps. I mean, I did my training from CMC Vellore, where every week we used to have 3 to 4 camps reaching out to like rural areas where patients could not come and reach. There was a community, there was a hill called the Javadi Hills in Vellore district, which from there to come to the hospital, it almost takes you 7 days. You do not have any communication, no bus, no nothing to travel from there. It was a very sad incident where a mother of 6, this was a 7th pregnancy, she was in labor. It was a labor. I mean, if you understand what breech is, the body was almost out, and she had to walk 30 kilometers with the body out of her from the vagina. She had to walk 30 kilometers to come and reach the hospital. That is the pathetic scene that in certain rural areas we are in. So reaching out definitely does help in these cases. I would next come to Ms. Gina Sharma. Ma'am is the head external communication and digital media of PHFI. Ma'am, how do you feel the civil society can come together for ensuring a holistic health of women?
I would like to actually thank the organizers for the opportunity. I'd like to thank the organizers for the opportunity and also being part of this very esteemed panel. It is important for us to recognize that uterus as an organ is beyond just there is much more to the uterus than just the reproductive side of it. It is important for an overall woman's well-being. So from a civil society perspective, I would have the following suggestions. Number one is it is important to actually, we have a lot of prevalence studies, but it is important to also understand the psychosocial aspects of the various communities who are undertaking these hysterectomies. So I would encourage more studies to be done in this area, and more solutions can be given to self-help groups who can then further advocate with the local government and non-profits working in the area. The second suggestion was in terms of in urban settings, we have patient engagement groups. There's a lot of, like Dr. Bakshi had mentioned, social media plays a very critical role. There are engagement forums which are online. So a lot of information, discussions, all of that needs to take place much actively, and we need to move ahead in this direction.
Absolutely. So I think for the holistic approach which ma'am talked about, I think it's important for us to obviously talk, discuss on the table, and it's very important for us to implement. Ma'am, can I just quickly come back to you and ask you one thing? How do you feel media could help in implementing things which have been discussed on the table? Mr. Anurag has already talked to us about it, but would you like to go ahead and talk to us, maybe at the government level, how it could be helpful by the media to help us in this aspect?
To me, there are various ways. One is the regional media plays a very critical role. The national media plays a very integral role from a policy perspective. The regional media are able to actually communicate in the local language. They are able to understand the local cultural context, which is very important to communicate messages on prevention. In terms of studies, there are now India and various organizations are conducting studies which are disease burden studies. There are qualitative research studies which are happening at the state level. These need to come to the forefront, and state level studies needs to be encouraged at a larger level, which will inform policymakers.
Absolutely. So studies, research is the primary thing, and very, I mean, Bayer thankfully does a lot of research in this, and they have got a major amount of the funds which are towards research, and that makes a lot of sense, because the thing is, you do only research when you have to find a solution for something. And when you're doing a research towards it, it will definitely help us in preserving the uterus, because ultimately the goal is that the wholesome well-being of a woman. Because hysterectomy, as has been said, it's not only just a childbearing organ, because I remember still that during my during my PG days, when I had asked this question to one of the undergraduates or interns, what is the commonest way you do a sterility surgery? The answer that came from them was hysterectomy. And that is where we'll have to start, thinking, and that is what we have to teach them, that it is not hysterectomy which is to be done at that point of time. Because if they come up with that mentality, ultimately, if they turn out to be a gynecologist, maybe they'll think hysterectomy is okay, kar lete, how does it matter? So that is what we'll have to bring about a change in the thinking. So I would like to now come to Dr. Archana Verma, ma'am, who has been immediate past vice president of FOGSI, one of the pioneer pioneer organizations in the country, 36,000 plus members, the biggest organization across the globe. Ma'am, what do you think is the role of family and partner, as Dr. Mahima has already talked about, in creating a healthy environment for women to prioritize their health over family responsibilities? Because we know that in today's day, even if a lady suffers from maybe dysmenorrhea, pain during menses, they might not go to a hospital because they have social responsibilities. They have responsibilities at home and at work. So how do you feel the partner will play an important role in maybe telling her, okay, in this period, rest, go to the doctor, show him or her, and then take proper care of yourself? How do you feel this will be beneficial?
Thank you, organizers, and thank you, Priyanka, for asking such an important question. You know, we always talk about the woman beauty and woman compassion, and it is our duty and our nation which we should always think of, because once we know that family is such an important thing, family is a basic unit of any nation, any society. First of all, society starts from the family. And if the family is strong, that means a woman is strong, and the woman is strong, that means nation is strong. This is very simple calculation. And so if the woman is taken care and she is being given the choice of decision making and informed decision, just empowerment, so that is only because if her partners always say, don't worry, main hu na, so that is something which always creates a lot of confidence in the woman. And she, because all stages of any pupil in the family, including pets, are always taken care by the woman. She is right from the sunrise to sunset. She is working and working, taking care of the profession also, and the family, and the part, and the everything also. And if somebody, she is looking after everybody, and if the partner is taking care of his, it's very, very important. And things are really different in different age groups, different perspectives, and different urban and rural. My dear friends, the urban women are educated, empowered, and safer. It is the poor family's socio-economic status, if the low, and they are living in the remote areas. Imagine very hilly area, very remote area, when they are not even getting the proper nutrition. And so if the family goes, and this primary health center and this counseling and awareness is something very important which we can see and follow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for putting in this important points and important words. So I would now like to move on with Dr. Karan Thakur. Sir, if I can just ask you, how do you feel that the private sector can ensure the upskilling and capacity building of doctors to tackle issues like heavy menstrual bleeding? Because in addition to the training, in addition to the equipments that is available, because I mean, like as it said, the diamond necklace is not for monkeys. So we need to have trained doctors, that is definitely there. But how do you feel that the capacity building and upskilling of these doctors will help in tackling this heavy menstrual bleedings?
See, one is on the policy front. It's very good that the government is looking at doubling the number of medical seats and also commensurate increase in the super specialists. So that's good.
When you talk, if I can just interrupt,
sure.
When you talk of the medical seats, what do you? Because if I may ask you, what do you feel about the faculties? Because the problem now that we are facing in most of the rural colleges especially are the faculties which are not getting to be
very true. So what I'm saying is, policy drives changes. So at least if you do this, the commensurate increase in resources will need to come on board. But I take your point on, the adequate number of faculty not being available. And we know all about ghost faculties and all of that. That's a subject that we'll discuss later. But the point is that at least that propels more people into the profession to begin with. But now what do we do with people who are already in the profession, and how do we upscale them? I think the time has come for nurse practitioners in India to really become a movement, just like we've seen in the West. We're talking about, countries which are so resource constrained like ours. We will never be able to reach the doctor ratios. Forget about the super specialist ratios that we have in the West. And the West, with a high ratio, doctor to patient ratio, still have nurse practitioners. And they are operating in rural areas. They're operating in semi-urban areas. They understand the community needs, and they can prescribe basic medicines after training. I don't think, if we don't take that route, we will not be building on the work that has been done through the ASHA program, and also through various the financing that we've done for various state level programs which are looking at maternal and child health. So one is the capacity building on that front when a new cadre comes into force, along with the increase in the medical seats. I think technology, again, as I said, will play an important role. Specialists like you can be addressing 3, 4, 5 times the number of people that you can address in a room. And I think if that really picks up, organizations like yours, associations like yours, if they start giving accreditations and CME credits, I think a lot more people will come on board who offer at least upskill themselves. The third part within that is, I think every medical practitioner every nurse who's worked in an ICU is skilled enough to at least offer some good advice on basic level of gynecological or reproductive health interventions. I think that needs to be part of the curriculum and part of upskilling. So I'm not leaving this only for super specialists to do, but I think another cadre of licensed practitioners can also be trained on this so that we can force multiply. But it is going to be an ecosystem approach. I don't think it is going to be only the government increasing seats, only corporate hospitals building new hospitals, and only Anganwadi workers or Asha workers working. It will need to come together to do this. Otherwise, we will continue to be plagued with this resource crunches.
Absolutely. So it's basically a teamwork that is that will be very important in this whole system. Now, as you talked about the Western, especially the Western countries, especially UK, where we know that most of the deliveries are conducted by midwives. We definitely are trying to bring in that system in the country. There is the Fernandez Hospital from Hyderabad, which I know most of us know is the pioneer who's trying to bring in midwifery into the country. But the thing is, do we accept it? First of all, patients accepting it, and also after that, the doctors accepting it. But I think it's time where we need to change, because we are not able to give that much of service to the patients who require it. In today's day, if you see in a government hospital, the ratio, the time given to a patient is less than a minute. Now, do you think communicating to a patient in less than a minute's time gives you adequate information that you need to pass on to a patient? In the Western countries, we know to get an appointment from a specialist, our patient has to wait for almost 15 to 20 days, where in India, a patient is not ready to wait for 15 to 20 minutes. So we need to change the system, the mindset of the people, because until and unless that happens, we will not be able to bring a change in the system, the healthcare system in the country. Dr. Mahima, if I can come to you next, I would like to ask you, how do you feel positive reinforcement can go a long way in creating the right environment and ecosystem to ensure women health issues and its importance, basically? So I would like to basically request you to highlight on the point of the right environment and ecosystem towards ensuring proper health related issues in women's lives.
So, we need to kind of go back to the beginning, So like in the earlier panel discussion also, they were mentioning about going back to adolescent health awareness. So I think sex education in schools, talking about the menstrual changes happening amongst teenagers in schools, and when a woman undergoes her pregnancy, even during those 9 months of journey, encouraging her, supporting her to take care of her own well-being. Of course, the baby's well-being is important, but her own well-being is equally important. And I think empowering women right from the beginning to, transition into every stage of her life by taking care of her health and well-being. I think positive reinforcement needs to go back there, that at every stage, we need to ensure that a woman is taking care of herself, her well-being, and knowing her danger signs. What are the danger signs at every stage of her life when she needs to seek medical help at the right time? I would like to share one story of my own family as well. My mother was having post-menopausal irregular bleeds, and she was not aware that it's not normal. And by the time I got to know, and when I took her to the hospital, we found out that she had uterine cancer. So I think a lot of such families, a lot of people living in urban places are not aware of the danger signs. So I think that is very important, that we need to make sure that right from the early period, from different stages of a woman's life, we're encouraging her, supporting her, and giving the positive reinforcement to her to take care of herself.
Absolutely, Dr. Mahima. Thank you so much for your inputs. I think I just like to add on one point to that. She said empowering women, and I would also say let also teach the men to live with this empowered woman, because it's very important in today's day, and men have to know to take care of their women. That is also very important, because the thing is, until and unless you be a support, be a pillar of support behind them, it will not work out in such a large or such a populous country. Archana ma'am, now talking about the points that Dr. Mahima and Dr. Kiran have talked about, if I can just ask you, how do you feel auditing will help, and data collection, especially auditing, data collection, etc., will help in providing a balance in hysterectomies? Like we know in today's day, the government has come out with policies, or almost on the verge of coming out with policies, where they'll say before doing a cesarean section, you will have to take a permission from the local authorities before doing it. We are sure that we will not be able to do that for a cesarean section, but if the government comes out with such a policy for hysterectomies, that will also be a doomsday for most of us, because there are most of us gynecologists who do indicated hysterectomies. So do you feel audit and data collection will help in this respect?
Dr. Priyankur, as a gynecologist, we all know that whenever we are doing any operative procedure or any patient, mind it, it should be taken as a surgical strike. So, we all know that hysterectomy is done for the many conditions which are many times benign, because we all know that what malignant conditions and all others are, there are many indications. So all the elective operations and the emergency operations. So taking aside, leaving the emergency hysterectomy in the obstetric cases. So because if we are doing hysterectomy, because their age is different, the cause is different, and the many complications are also associated with the hysterectomy. So if we know the complication later on, so we need to, it will be really a better if we have data where the patient was of high socioeconomic status, what was the diagnosis, whether the diagnosis were done properly or not, whether the ultrasound was done or not, whether a second opinion was taken or not. So all these data collection will definitely help, because we doctors somehow somewhere lack in proper documentation and making data, and releasing our data to others. So if we compile, somehow it will definitely give a point for researchers, because in India, if we are doing bestest and the maximum work, if we start presenting our data, so the India will be #1 in projecting our case and what the problem is. So this is something really data making is definitely needed, because, and this is one thing I am really impressed with Mahima ji. She was saying that people are putting many photos doing this thing after surgery, steps of surgery. That is not going to help us. The only thing which is going to help is making data. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana ma'am. A point absolutely correctly taken, because we know that in India, there's not too much of data which comes out. But we know that FOGSI also came out with the COVID data, which turned out to be the biggest data in the world. And there were a lot of learning points from the FOGSI data that came out, and the way of management in pregnant women in COVID. So those are things that we definitely look in, present our data, audit them, and that will definitely help us. Dr. Gina, if I can just come to you next. Do you feel there are a lot of public-private partnerships that are happening today, because of probably the reason that the government is not able to cater to so many people, the sort of service that may be required, maybe there's some lackings there. So there are a lot of partnerships that are happening. Do you feel this is a boon or a bane?
So I would like to rephrase the terminology PPP. Our founder president at PHFI, Dr. Srinath Reddy, had actually coined the term partnership for public purpose. So as a result of which, if you have PPPs which are focused on bringing about change, and like Dr. Kiran had mentioned, if we can create ecosystems which have teams which are multidisciplinary, which can understand the problem, and most importantly, looking at women's health holistically, because we tend to only look at it in parts, and our policies, our government policies also don't look at it holistically. So it is important to do so.
Perfect. So public-private partnerships, of course, are here to stay, but then use it in a way that is beneficial for the public as well as, of course, is sustainable for the government as well. So that has to be definitely looked into. So I would like to ask the last of inputs from Mr. Anurag Mishra. Sir, if I can ask you, what do you feel is the importance of, Ms. Gina has already talked of this, but of regional campaigns, especially in local languages by NGOs, and how it can be propagated in the media for the benefit of the public, as well as, I would say, benefit of the healthcare workers?
जी ने जैसे कि कहा कि हमको लोकल लैंग्वेजेस में भी बात कहनी होगी। इसका एक एग्जांपल था कि नम्मा ध्वनि करके कर्नाटका में जब ये इशू आया, तो नम्मा ध्वनि करके कम्युनिटी रेडियो था, उसने अपनी महिलाओं की जो समस्याएं थी उनकी बातों को कहना शुरू किया। वो पहला कम्युनिटी रेडियो था जहां महिलाएं अपनी बात कह सकती थी और बता सकती थी। उन्होंने सुनामी जैसी घटनाओं पर भी काम किया, तो वो लोकल लैंग्वेजेस में अपनी बात को कहते थे। आंध्र प्रदेश में भी जब ये मामला आया तो उन्होंने कम्युनिटी रेडियोस बनाए छोटे छोटे इलाकों में सरकारों ने, और उनके माध्यम से महिलाओं को अवेयर करने का काम शुरू किया कि उनको ये समझ में आया कि उनकी प्रॉब्लम क्या है। क्योंकि दिक्कत ये थी कि कई महिलाएं पढ़ नहीं सकती थी, अखबार में आप लिखेंगे तो वो जान नहीं पाएंगी, ऑनलाइन में आप जाएंगे तो समझ नहीं पाएंगी। तो उनके पास एक माध्यम था कि उनको सुनाया जाए, तो उन्होंने जो वहाँ का लोकल रेडियो था उसके मार्फत उनको बात कहनी शुरू करी। वहाँ की जो लोकल पंचायत विलेजेस थी उसके मार्फत बात कहना शुरू किया। छोटे छोटे कैंपेन्स किए, सरकार जब राशन बांटती थी उस राशन के कैंपेन में सरकार ने इसका इस्तेमाल करना शुरू किया, तो चीजें बदली। तो मेरा मकसद ये था कि कहने का कि आपको छोटे छोटे ऐसे कैंपेन करने पड़ेंगे जहां लोगों तक बात पहुंचाई जा सके, और वो आपको ये देखकर करना पड़ेगा कि उनका सोशियो इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस किस तरह का है, क्योंकि वो एक मजदूर हैं जो आपके पास आ नहीं सकते सुनने के लिए, वो अपना टाइम नहीं निकाल सकते। तो उन तक जाने के लिए आपको लोकल भाषा और लोकल कनेक्ट का इस्तेमाल अधिक संख्या में करना होगा, खासकर ऐसे माध्यमों का जिसमें एजुकेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट ना हो, ऐसे माध्यमों का इस्तेमाल अधिक करना होगा। सरकार को लोग ऐसे अधिक डिप्लॉय करने होंगे हमको, जैसे सरकार ने बहुत जगह मेंटरशिप प्रोग्राम चलाया हुआ है, जैसे पहाड़ के इलाकों में जैसे एम्स बनाया है सरकार ने, इस एम्स के मार्फत वहां पर मेंटरशिप प्रोग्राम चलाते हैं। ऐसी सरकारों को कुछ जो बड़े सेंट्रल हॉस्पिटल्स हैं उनको मेंटरशिप करने के लिए करना होगा, सेंट्रल स्टेट को करे, स्टेट उनके छोटे अस्पतालों को मेंटरशिप करें। वो एक ऊपर से नीचे जब प्रोपोगेट करेगा तो नीचे का डॉक्टर भी उतना ही ट्रेंड होगा, जैसे कि डॉक्टर साहब कह रहे थे अभी, ठक्कर साहब, कि तो हमको जो नीचे डॉक्टर है, नर्स भी है, वो हमारी ट्रेंड हो उस चीजों को बता सकने में, उसे गाइड करने में। अगर मामला गंभीर होगा तो ऊपर तक आएगा, तो वो चीज को स्टार्टिंग में ही हम रोक सकते हैं। तो ऐसे मामलों में सेकंड पॉइंट है, डॉक्टर्स की भूमिका इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट होगी कि अखबारों में जो वो कॉलम्स लिखें या चीजें लिखें उनको बहुत ही सिंपल भाषा में बताकर लोगों को ऐसा बताएं कि ताकि महिलाएं जागरूक हों, लोगों तक बात बहुत आसान शब्दों में पहुंच सके। जैसे कि हम अभी सैनिटरी पैड्स के लिए दिखाते हैं कि अक्षय कुमार का ऐड दिखाते हैं, वैसे ही हमको कुछ बेसिक एड्स बनाने होंगे और कुछ ऐसे कैंपेन बनाने होंगे जो बड़े सेलिब्रिटीज इसमें आगे आए, बड़े इन्फ्लुएंसर्स आगे आए, तो वो चीज लोगों तक पहुंचेगी और लोगों तक घर करेगी, उनके दिल तक बात पहुंचेगी, तो उसका असर ज्यादा होगा।
Perfect, Mr. Anurag. So a small example of this would be possibly one of the smallest states in the country, state of Sikkim. We know that Government of India has made the cervical cancer vaccination now free across the country. I mean, not free; it's included in the immunization program, and it's available at a very low cost. Government of Sikkim has brought about coverage of cervical cancer vaccination across all its women by one simple funda. In the school, the children were given a leaflet which was sent in the tiffin box of these children to the home. We all know that when a leaflet comes from the school, every parent takes it seriously and they open it and they see what is inside it. So when this was seen, by that, the woman got maximum coverage over there. And today, Sikkim is thankfully one of the states which has got the least number of cervical cancers in the country. So that is how we need to start. First of all, of course, by trying to prevent, control, and then eradicate subsequently. So I would just like to finish off this session, just take few last one-line comments from all of you. First of all, from Dr. Archana Verma, ma'am. Ma'am, if you can just tell us in one line the role of organization in preventing the hysterectomies.
Awareness, number one, and educating and teaching and making all aware of all the skills and all the options available for managing uterine problems.
Okay, so awareness, education is what ma'am would talk to us, would give a one-line comment at the end of the session. Ms. Reena Sharma, how do you feel digital media could help? What would be your one-line message for how would digital media help in this aspect?
So digital media plays a critical role. I think most of us are online. All the experts can play a vital role in dispelling a lot of myths with regards to women's health issues, and also play a critical role in misinformation, because there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation out there. And, online experts, even health professionals can play a very critical role in clarifying these issues.
Perfect. So propagation of the right information is what I guess your one-line message was. Thank you, Ms. Gina. If I can come to Mr. Anurag Mishra, your one-line message to how media can help in preserving the uterus.
Awareness is a key, process and law.
Perfect. Perfect. Dr. Mahima, social media, influencers, how can they help in preserving the uterus?
So I think health influencers need to make sure that they carry a larger responsibility as compared to other kind of social media influencers like makeup influencers or fashion influencers. So whatever content they are posting, they should think twice and be careful about what they are posting. So I think that is very important.
Proper content posting, which is a good message to the society. Thanks, Dr. Mahima. And finally, Dr. Kiran, your role, how do you think a good corporate hospital or a healthcare setup for that matter help in preserving the uterus?
I think the target should be target, which is technology. We should have awareness. We should have resources. We need good governance to monitor these things. We need empowered communities that are there, and we need teamwork. So if we target the target, I think we can make a real difference.
Absolutely. I guess he ended up with this 3 T's: target the target, technology, and teamwork. I think that is what is wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And I think it was a wonderful session. Thank you once again.
A big thank you to all our speakers and our moderator, Dr. Priyanka Roy, for conducting such a great discussion. We apologize for the few interruptions that happened, but sometimes technology also is not foolproof, so nothing in life is foolproof. But thank you all for taking the time out and coming here and sharing your thoughts with the audience. I request all of you to please gather for a group photograph. A round of applause for all our speakers on the stage. I would now like to request and invite on stage Kamal Narayan, CEO, IHW Council, to please come on stage and give a few concluding words. A round of applause for Kamal Narayan, please.
Thank you so much, all of you, for spending the whole day with us, kind of going through such a important messaging about something which we all need to change. And through our campaign, which we initiated with FOGSI and Bayer, the focus and the purpose of this has been to change the status quo of hysterectomies in our country, which certainly add to a lot of women's health burden in our country. This has been a wonderful day. I think a lot of insights we got. We had some of the most wonderful speakers, experts, policy representatives, government representatives, doctors, also people from media, sharing their perspective and their insights, how we can change this. Women health has to be, as all of the experts and speakers have echoed, has to be the center and the core of our health system, health planning, and also in the nation building process. And when it comes to women's health, we also need to ensure that something which can hamper women's health and may have longer consequences, something which is undesired and something which is not, justifiable. And hysterectomy, despite this being a medical procedure which may be needed by many, is, falling under that, ambit of suspicion. So I'm sure with the, the kind of consensus which we saw today by all the experts and speakers and stakeholders, focusing on awareness, focusing on training, capacity building, focusing on advocating for better guidelines, better regulatory mechanism, I'm sure we will be able to change this problem and improvise it for better. We will continue this campaign with all our, energies and passion and bandwidth. We thank Bayer and also FOGSI for their wonderful support for driving this campaign. This is a much needed effort, and I'm sure it is going to go a long way. So thank you so much for being part of this National Summit today. And we look forward to all the support and engagement from all of you in our further and next steps in this objective. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your participation here, and a big round of applause for IHW Council, for the Bayer team, and for FOGSI. They have made this possible, and wishing them all the very best to take this campaign to every nook and corner of our country, so that women's health becomes priority for everyone, and no woman has to go under the scalpel for no reason at all. If a good reason, yes, perhaps, but not for a good basis. I request the Bayer team to please come up on stage for a group photograph with the pledge. A big thank you to all of you. Please do join us for tea.